In the kingdom of Oakhaven, the people prize beauty, diplomacy, and the scent of jasmine. For 20 years, Queen Genevieve had ruled over a golden age of peace. The bards sing of her wisdom, the nobles toast to her bloodless borders. I am Rowan, her husband. To the court, I am a man of simple tastes. I spend my days in the forest or the smithy. I don't wear silk, I wear boiled leather and wool. I don't speak at galas, I listen. The court calls me the quiet consort, a man who was lucky enough to marry a woman far above his station. What they don't see are the scars beneath my tunic. They don't know that for 20 years I haven't been hunting in the woods. I've been leading a shadow legion of mercenaries on the frontiers, intercepting the raiders, the monsters, and the rival kings before they ever reached the city gates. I am the reason Oakhaven is bloodless, because I've spilled enough blood on the borders to fill the palace fountains. I didn't do it for the glory. I did it because I loved Genevieve, and I wanted her to live in a world where she never had to learn the weight of a sword. The peace was broken, not by a war, but by a man named Julian. Julian was an envoy from the Southern Empire. He was everything I wasn't. He had perfectly groomed hair, a silver tongue, and a cape that cost more than my entire arsenal. He spoke of cultural enlightenment and sophisticated alliances. Oakhaven is a jewel, Julian whispered to Genevieve during a garden party, his voice smooth as honey. But it is a jewel guarded by a rustic gardener. A queen of your refinement deserves a partner who understands the nuances of the new world, not a man who smells of the stable. Genevieve looked at me. I was standing by the stone wall, my boots covered in the mud of the North Road where I had just finished executing a group of assassins meant for her. She didn't see the blood I had washed off. She only saw the mud. Rowan is a relic of a harder time, she said softly, her eyes lingering on Julian's polished rings. I am grateful for his loyalty, but sometimes I feel as though I am dragging the past behind me while I try to walk into the future. The end came on the night of the winter solstice. Genevieve summoned me to her private study. She didn't offer me a seat. She stood by the window, looking out at the peaceful city I had died 1,000 deaths to protect. I am petitioning the council for an annulment, Rowan. Her voice didn't shake. The world is changing. We are no longer a kingdom of fortresses. We are a kingdom of ideas. Julian has proposed a union that will merge our empires through trade and art. He is a creative titan of diplomacy. Trade and art don't stop the Black Fang raiders in the past, Genevieve, I said quietly. She sighed, a sound of deep, patronizing pity. Always talking about shadows and raiders. You've spent 20 years chasing phantoms in the mud, Rowan. There have been no attacks in decades. The world is safe now. Your paranoia is no longer a virtue, it's a burden. She pushed a document toward me. I've granted you a small estate in the outer provinces. You can hunt to your heart's content. But Oakhaven needs a king who can speak to the world. Julian is that man. I looked at the document. Then I looked at her. I realized she truly believed the world was safe. She truly believed the walls stayed up because of her ideas. If you believe the world is safe, Genevieve, then I have done my job well, I said. I didn't sign the paper. I didn't need to. I just took off the simple silver band she had given me 20 years ago and placed it on her desk. But remember this, the wolves only stay away from the campfire because they fear the man holding the torch. If you put the torch out to admire the moonlight, the wolves will come back. I walked out of the palace that night. I didn't take my armor. I didn't take the king's guard. I went to the secret cave beneath the North Ridge. My Shadow Legion, 500 men who lived and breathed for my command, were waiting in the darkness. The contract is over, I told them. My voice was a rasp of cold iron. The Queen has found a diplomat. She no longer requires our services. We are moving to the free cities. And the borders, Commander? My lieutenant asked, his face etched with concern. The Ironclaw tribe is already moving toward the pass. They've been waiting for us to blink. Let them move, I said, mounting my horse. The Queen says the world is made of ideas now. Let's see how many ideas it takes to stop a war axe. As we rode away into the night, the first signal fire of the enemy sparked on the horizon. For the first time in 20 years, I didn't turn back to put out.
6 months passed. In the Southern Empire's luxurious court, Julian was a star. But in Oakhaven, the atmosphere had shifted from golden to gray. Without the quiet consort prowling the shadows, the borders of Oakhaven began to bleed. It started with small things: a merchant caravan gone missing, a border village's granary burned to the ground. Genevieve sat at the head of the High Council, Julian by her side in a doublet of crushed velvet. "My queen," the captain of the guard said, his voice trembling, "the Ironclaw tribe has crossed the pass. They aren't just raiding, they are occupying. They say the gray ghost who used to hunt them has vanished, and they've come to claim the valley." Julian let out a light, airy laugh. "Captain, you overreact. These are likely just nomadic disputes. We don't need swords, we need a summit. I will send my finest negotiators with gifts of silk and wine. We shall show them the benefits of being Oakhaven's allies." Genevieve nodded, though her hand gripped the arm of her throne a little too tightly. "My queen, Julian is right. Violence is a primitive language. We must be the voice of reason." A week later, Julian's summit returned, or rather, what was left of it. 2 riderless horses trotted into the palace courtyard. Tied to their saddles were the silk banners Julian had sent, now soaked in blood. In a sack hung from the lead horse was the head of Julian's chief negotiator, with a note pinned to his forehead in the guttural script of the Ironclaw. "Where is the shadow? We were promised the man of scars. We will not speak to sheep in silk. The valley is ours by sunset." The courtyard fell to a deathly silence. Julian turned pale, his sophisticated hands shaking so hard he had to hide them in his sleeves. They are barbarians," Julian stammered. "They don't understand the nuance of trade. My queen, we must retreat to the inner citadel." Genevieve looked at Julian, the man she had chosen for his ideas, and for the first time she felt a cold, hollow pit in her stomach. Rowan never retreated. Rowan never asked for a summit. He simply went into the night and returned with the threat neutralized. By the following month, the Ironclaw were within 10 miles of the capital. The Golden Age was over. The bards had stopped singing, and the citizens were packing their lives into carts. Genevieve stood in her study, the same room where she had discarded Rowan. She looked at the silver ring still sitting on her desk, gathering dust. "Where is he?" she whispered. "We found his trail, my queen," the captain of the guard said, appearing in the doorway. "He isn't in the estate you gave him. He never went there. He's in the free city of Blackrock. He's built something, Your Majesty, a fortress of his own." "Summon the carriage," Genevieve ordered, her voice brittle, "and tell Julian he is not invited. I am going to bring my husband home." The free city was a place of iron and smoke. At its center stood a massive obsidian tower. As Genevieve's royal carriage rolled through the gates, She didn't see diplomats or artists. She saw thousands of soldiers, hard-eyed men and women training with a discipline that made the Oakhaven Guard look like toy soldiers. I found me in the sparring pits. I wasn't wearing wool anymore. I was clad in full plate armor, black as a raven's wing. I was faster, stronger, and more lethal than I had ever been because I was no longer holding back to keep her peace. I didn't stop my practice as she approached. I drove my practice sword into a wooden dummy, shattering the reinforced oak with a single blow. "Rowan," she called out. I turned. I didn't bow. I didn't smile. I looked at her like a mountain looks at a passing cloud. "Oakhaven is burning, Rowan," she sobbed, her royal composure finally shattering. "Julian, he doesn't know what to do. The Ironclaw are at the gates. Please, I was wrong. I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know the price you were paying." "You knew the price, Genevieve," I said, wiping the sweat from my brow with a scarred hand. "You just didn't want to see the person who was paying it. You wanted the garden, but you hated the gardener for having dirt on his hands." "I'll give you anything," she pleaded. "The throne, the treasury, my public apology. Just save my people." "Your people?" I stepped closer, the shadow of my armor falling over her. "For 20 years, they were my people. I bled for every inch of that soil. But you told the world I was a relic. You told them my paranoia was a burden. So I took my burden and moved it here." I gestured to the thousands of soldiers around us. "These are my people now, and they don't value ideas over iron. They value loyalty." "Are you saying you'll let Oakhaven fall?" she whispered, horrified. "I'm saying that Oakhaven already fell the night you chose a silver tongue over a steel shield. Now, if you want my help, you're not asking as a queen, you're asking as a beggar, and beggars don't get to set the terms."
The sparring pit fell silent. My men, the Shadow Legion, gathered around the perimeter. These were men who had lost brothers in the very raids Genevieve called phantoms. They didn't look at her with the awe of subjects. They looked at her with the cold judgment of the abandoned. "I am not here to beg," Genevieve said, her chin trembling as she tried to summon her royal authority. "I am here to demand the return of my consort to his post." A sharp feminine laugh cut through the tension. From the shadows of the armory stepped Kaya. She was taller than Genevieve, her skin bronzed by the sun of a dozen campaigns and a jagged scar running along her jawline. She was the general of my legion, and the woman who had actually stood back to back with me while Genevieve was busy choosing the color of Julian's silk drapes. "Your post?" Kaya said, her voice like grinding stones. "He had no post in Oakhaven. He had a cage. He was a ghost you kept in the cellar so you wouldn't have to look at the blood on the floor." "How dare you speak to me that way?" Genevieve snapped. Kaya stepped into Genevieve's personal space, the smell of oil and steel clashing with the Queen's expensive jasmine perfume. "In Blackrock, we don't bow to crowns. We bow to the man who leads us into the fire. Rowan isn't your consort anymore, little queen. He is the commander of the free cities, and he doesn't work for free." I stepped between them. My presence ended the confrontation. "Oakhaven is surrounded, Rowan," Genevieve said, her voice breaking. "If the Ironclaw breach the inner wall tonight, they won't just take the gold. They'll burn the libraries. They'll burn the history. Everything I built." "Everything we built," I corrected her, "but you forgot the we a long time ago." I turned to Kaya. "General, what is the cost of a full Legion deployment to Oakhaven?" Kaya smiled, a predatory expression. "To save a kingdom that spat on us, the price is high. I want the northern mines to be ceded to the free cities. I want full immunity for every man in this legion. And most importantly, she looked at Genevieve with pure disdain. The diplomat, Julian, is to be handed over to us for judgment. He abandoned his post at the first sign of trouble. In the Legion, we have a specific word for that. Genevieve gasped. You want me to hand over my fiancé to be judged by mercenaries? He's the force of nature, isn't he? I said, leaning against the obsidian wall. Surely a man of his sophistication can negotiate his way out of a Legion trial. Genevieve had no choice. She signed the scrolls with a shaking hand, her royal seal feeling like a lead weight. She had traded the sovereignty of her mines and the life of her lover for the hope of a man she called a relic. We didn't ride in a royal carriage. I led the Legion on horseback, 5,000 shadows moving through the night with a speed that Oakhaven's pampered guard couldn't imagine. As we approached the capital, the sky was orange. The outer districts were already in flames. The Ironclaw war horns were blaring, a sound of pure, unchecked primal triumph. We stopped on the ridge overlooking the city. Look at it, Rowan, Kaya said, pulling up beside me. Your peace is burning. It was never a peace, I said, drawing my heavy greatsword. The black steel hummed in the cold air. General, take the left flank, leave the center to me. Inside the palace walls, Julian was hiding in the wine cellar, clutching a bottle of expensive nectar and weeping. The Ironclaw had just breached the main gate. The Oakhaven guards were throwing down their spears, terrified by the giants in furs who were systematically dismantling their civilization. The Ironclaw chieftain, a mountain of a man named Korg, was standing in the center of the courtyard, laughing as he prepared to torch the royal banner. "Where is he?" Korg roared. "Where is the man of scars? Did he die of boredom in your gardens?" "No," a voice boomed from the gateway. I walked into the courtyard alone. The firelight glinted off my black plate armor. I didn't have a banner. I didn't have a herald. I just had the sword that had tasted the blood of 1,000 of Korg's kin. The Ironclaw warriors stopped. A hush fell over the courtyard. The fear that Genevieve had claimed was gone returned in a single heartbeat. "Rowan," Korg whispered, his grin turning into a snarl of genuine respect and terror. "You came back for this? For a queen who threw you away like a broken bone?" "I didn't come back for her, Korg," I said, my voice resonating through the helmet. "I came back for the mud, and you're standing on my soil." I didn't wait for his signal. I moved like a blur of steel. The relic was no longer holding back. The courtyard of Oakhaven, once famous for its jasmine-scented air and marble statuary, now smelled of ozone and iron. I didn't fight like a knight of the realm. There was no pageantry in my movements, no wasted flourishes. I fought like the mercenary I was, efficient, brutal, and relentless. Korg, the Ironclaw chieftain, swung a mace that could crush a stone wall, but he was swinging at a ghost. I stepped inside his guard, my black greatsword shearing through his hide armor like it was parchment. With a single fluid motion, the threat that had paralyzed the Oakhaven Council was silenced. Korg's body hit the marble floor with a heavy, final thud. Behind me, the Shadow Legion flooded the gates. They didn't use diplomacy. They used the language of iron that I had taught them in the mud of the frontier. Within the hour, the invincible Ironclaw were either dead or fleeing back toward the pass, terrified by the return of the man they thought had vanished. As the fires were brought under control, Kaya approached me, her armor splattered with the blood of the front lines. She held a whimpering figure by the collar of a dirt-stained velvet doublet. It was Julian. The creative titan of diplomacy looked pathetic.
He had been found hiding behind a rack of vintage wine in the royal cellar, clutching a jeweled dagger he clearly didn't know how to use. "We found your force of nature, Commander," Kaya said, her voice dripping with amusement. She threw him at my feet. Julian scrambled to his knees, his eyes darting toward Genevieve, who had just entered the courtyard with her advisors. "Genevieve, my queen, tell them I was guarding the royal stores. I was protecting the resources." Genevieve looked at Julian. Then she looked at the carnage in the courtyard. She saw the bodies of the men who had died while Julian was hiding. The illusion of the sophisticated diplomat didn't just crack, it dissolved into a puddle of cowardice. "He is yours, General," Genevieve said, her voice hollow. She didn't even look at Julian as the legionaries dragged him away toward the judgment they had promised. The following morning, the sun rose over a scarred city. Genevieve stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out at the Shadow Legion camped in her gardens. They were sharpening blades and sharing rations, treating her royal estate like a military bivouac. She found me in the war room studying the maps of the northern mines, the territory she had ceded to me. "The city is safe," she said softly, stepping into the room. She had changed into a gown of white and gold, trying to reclaim the image of the goddess of peace. "The people are chanting your name, Rowan. They're calling you the savior of Oakhaven." "I didn't do it for the name, Genevieve," I said, without looking up. "I know." She moved closer, her hand reaching out to touch my scarred arm. "I see it now. I see everything. I was blinded by the light of the new world, and I forgot the man who was holding the shadows at bay. I've spoken to the council. We are ready to reinstate your titles. We will have a new coronation, a reunion of the sun and the shield." I finally looked up. I didn't see a queen. I saw a woman trying to buy back a soul she had sold. "The shield is gone, Genevieve, and the shield doesn't want your titles." Before she could speak, the door opened. Kaya walked in carrying a stack of logistics reports. She didn't knock, she didn't wait for permission. She walked straight to my side and leaned over the map, her shoulder brushing mine. "The first shipment of ore from the mines is already moving toward Blackrock," Kaya said, her eyes meeting mine with a spark of shared triumph. "The Legion is ready to move out by dawn." Genevieve stiffened, her face turning a pale shade of red. "Rowan, who is this woman, and why is she discussing my mines as if they were hers?" "They are hers, Rowan," said I. "They belong to the free cities now. And as for who she is, she's the woman who stood by me when I was a relic. She's the one who bled in the mud while you were drinking wine with a coward." I stood up, closing the map. "You wanted a kingdom of ideas, Genevieve. Well, here is an idea for you. Loyalty isn't a debt you pay when the bill comes due. It's a foundation you build every single day. You broke that foundation. You can't just glue it back together with a title and a coronation. A man will walk through fire for a woman who respects the scars he earned to keep her safe, but he won't walk a single step for a queen who only values him when the smoke starts to fill her room." "Are you leaving me?" Genevieve whispered, the tears finally falling. "After 20 years?" "I didn't leave you, Genevieve," I said, walking toward the door with Kaya. "I'm just making sure the transaction is final." 1 year later. The seasons in the free city of Blackrock didn't care for royal calendars. Here, time was measured by the expansion of the mines and the strengthening of the walls. Blackrock had become the new heart of the continent, not because of its silk or its poetry, but because every merchant knew that a contract signed in Rowan City was backed by the most disciplined legion in the world. I stood on the battlements of the Obsidian Keep, looking out over the training grounds. Below, thousands of soldiers moved with the precision of a clockwork machine. Beside me, Kaya was sharpening a ceremonial dagger, the sound of whetstone on steel, a constant, comforting rhythm. "A letter arrived from the south," Kaya said, not looking up. "The Queen of Ideas is requesting a reduction in the iron tariffs. It seems Oakhaven's sophisticated trade deals didn't account for a winter without coal." I looked at the seal on the parchment, the golden sun of Oakhaven. A year ago, that seal would have made my heart ache. Now it was just a piece of paper. "Tell the couriers that the tariffs stay. If Oakhaven wants the heat of our fires, they can pay the market price. I'm done providing the warmth for free." In Oakhaven, the jasmine still bloomed, but the air felt thin. The nobility who had once mocked my paranoia now spent their nights staring nervously at the horizon. They had realized that a golden age is only golden if you have a man willing to stand in the dark to protect it. Genevieve sat in her throne room, but the room felt too large for her now. Her alliance with the Southern Empire had turned into a predatory vassalage. Without a strong military presence, Julian's sophisticated friends had simply moved in and begun extracting Oakhaven's wealth through legal fees and diplomatic tributes. As for Julian, he was still in the city. I hadn't executed him, that would have been a mercy. Instead, the Shadow Legion had judged him by stripping him of his titles and sentencing him to a year of service in the very border forts he claimed were relics of the past. He returned to the capital 6 months later, a broken, trembling man who couldn't hear a door slam without jumping. He wasn't a force of nature anymore. He was just a coward who had finally seen the face of the world he tried to ignore. I had to return to Oakhaven once to sign the final treaties for the Northern Mine annexation. I didn't arrive in wool. I arrived at the head of 1,000 heavy cavalrymen, my black armor polished to a mirror finish. When I walked into the Great Hall, the council members who used to call me the Quiet Consort bowed so low their foreheads nearly touched the floor. Genevieve met me in the royal garden, the same place where she had once told Julian that I was dragging the past behind her. "You look well, Rowan," she said. She looked older. The stress of holding a crumbling kingdom together had etched lines into her face that no jasmine perfume could hide. "I hear Blackrock is thriving. I hear you've found a new general." "I found a partner, Genevieve. There's a difference." She looked at the stone wall where I used to stand in the mud. "I kept the smithy," she whispered. "I haven't let anyone use it. I thought perhaps one day you'd want to come back. We could find a middle ground, a world of both ideas and iron." I looked at the smithy, then back at her. The middle ground only exists when both people value the foundation. You thought the foundation was a burden. You wanted the roof without the pillars. "I was wrong," she cried, the same desperation I saw in the free city returning to her eyes. "I admit it. Julian was a mistake. My pride was a mistake. Can't we just go back to how it was?" "We can never go back," I said, my voice steady. "Because the man who loved you for 20 years died the night you told him his sacrifice was a nuisance. The man standing here now is someone you don't know. And quite frankly, Genevieve, he's someone you don't deserve to know." I walked away from her, my spurs jingling on the marble path. I didn't look back at the tears. I didn't look back at the beautiful, hollow kingdom I had once called home. As I reached the palace gates, Kaya was waiting for me on her warhorse. She didn't ask what was said. She didn't need to. She just handed me my reins and pointed north. "The forge is hot in Blackrock, Rowan," she said with a smirk. and we have a world to build." I mounted my horse and looked at the horizon. For 20 years, I had been the hidden king, the man in the mud, the silent shield. I had given everything to a woman who only valued the light. But as I rode away with a woman who understood the value of the shadow, I realized that the silent pain was gone. In its place was something much stronger. A man who spends his life protecting a rose shouldn't be surprised when the rose forgets the thorns. But a man who finds another thorn to stand beside him, that is a man who can finally stop fighting and start living. The gates of Oakhaven closed behind us. The relic was gone. The king of the free cities was going home.
Thank you for sharing this chapter with us at Velvet Chapters Brew. Comment, like, and subscribe to see where the next page takes us.